Hello and welcome to the GAA Show here on 42.ie, coming at you live from our newsroom here in Dublin. My name is Gavan Casey, joined as per usual by our GAA editor, or maybe the editor of the site overall actually, judging on the Sunday game last night, Fintan O'Toole. Congrats on the new gig, Fintan.
Thanks, Gavan.
Lovely to have you, but we're delighted to be joined as well by Roscommon GAA legend, icon, the man himself, Mr. Shane Curran. How are things?
Very good, excellent, great Monday morning.
It is, yeah. Lovely to be here so early. Not that early at all, of course. It was a serious weekend, lots of action. Shane, I suppose there's probably only one place to start with yourself here, and it was probably the most entertaining game of the weekend as well. How are you feeling after that one yesterday?
Excellent. Really, a lot of emotions, I suppose, after the game. You're delighted to be in it. You're probably a little bit feeling sorry that you didn't win it, and but most of all pride, I think, in the players and management and supporters. I think we're just delighted with the team now that is really fighting for the cause, and punching above their weight in many ways. But the performances over the last couple of games, in particular the Connacht final and yesterday, have proven that winning the Nestor Cup was no fluke.
Yeah, big time. Were you surprised at all by the fact that you found yourselves well able to hang in there? I think particularly if you look at the pattern in the first half, it looked like after Roscommon had this electric start, you kind of got 20 minutes without scoring almost, and maybe it looked like the game was just going to get away from them, but it seemed like they needed half-time, and whatever happened at half-time, it obviously worked. Yeah,
it gave them a probably necessary respite. Mayo come back into the game, as you said. Roscommon got off to a blistering start, 2-2 in the first 8-9 minutes. But unfortunately, they repeated probably the issues that they had in the Connacht final as well. They didn't score for over 20 minutes again. Got their beards a bit before half time and closed it out at 2 points down. And I think when Kevin got them into the dressing room, he would have focused on the really positive start. We then went a bit static, I think, in our play. A lot of lateral passing and that. And what makes Roscommon probably more dynamic than any other team is the two players inside, Kieran and Jim Murtha. When they get quick early ball, they have the ability to give trouble to defences no matter how good they are. And we've done that for, as you said, the first 10 minutes, but then maybe it's a combination of probably Mayo and their experience as well, nullifying the threat in around the middle third, and we struggled from there into the half-time break. And Kevin got them in obviously and worked his magic, and they came out and they equalised after about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And again, I think similar to the Connacht final, when Galway came at us, we had a response. When Mayo came at us yesterday, we had a response, and we stuck to the plan and stuck to the game and showed great enthusiasm and energy really to keep at it when a lot of players looked out on their feet and out on their legs. I think that the one thing that has probably surprised everybody is that for a small team, we physically were able to put it up to both Galway and Mayo. And I think that takes courage and it takes a lot of pride in the jersey and a lot of heart. And when you have that, a lot of the players have tremendous football ability, as we know and have seen, have won a lot of, or been competitive in under-21 Connacht championships, got to a couple of All-Ireland finals, we have players with Sigerson Cup medals. So we have players that are used to beating the Mayos and the Galways over the last 7 or 8 years, or at least been on a level par and competing. And I think we've seen that yesterday, that they showed no fear of their more experienced opponents.
That gap you talked about, the physical stakes, Kevin mentioned that last week. Did you think, was that an element of mind games? I mean, he was going on about that we're not going to be physically able to match Mayo, or do you think it was a genuine kind of a fear that he had coming into the game, considering that I suppose Roscommon are kind of maybe first or second year kind of development, whereas this Mayo team, a lot of them pretty much on the road since 2011 really at this stage, aren't they?
That's right, and they have that experience, but also have the conditioning of that. And I don't think I think Kevin is very he's very transparent in his views and very open and honest. And I think I think we should, if we see more of it, we'd be a lot better off. You can't hoodwink people that know the game anyhow. And I think if you were to look at both teams in a parade, you'd say, look, there's one of them a junior team and one of them a senior team. But somewhere inside Roscommon, they've got this heart and this pride and this determination and courage, as we said. And it's very, very hard to fight against that. I think it can make up sometimes for a lack of experience or maybe for a lack of quality. And yesterday and in the Connacht final, they've proven that it was no one-off. And these players are growing in stature now all the time.
It's pretty good vindication for Kevin, isn't it? And Liam, I mean, they've obviously had you know them pretty well from your time at St. Bridget's. Tough couple of years with the way, after last year, the way it kind of went off the rails a bit in the championship, and given some of the beatings they took this year in the league, and we've heard a lot about the criticism kind of inside the county, but I mean they've pretty much backed it up, haven't they, in the summer now, that I think they always said this spring, judges on what happens in Championship. But I mean, taking Mayo to replay, they've beaten Galway. That's a couple of big Championship displays back to back.
Yeah, and it's a triumph for good coaching and good management and a sensible approach to how things should be done. Obviously, I worked with Kevin and Liam with Bridget's, and that approach, you know, it's a kind of an arm around the shoulder approach, but yet, you know, a strong approach when it's required. It's not a dictatorship, and I think what I've been most impressed about is that when we won the Connacht final, football was brought to the supporters. It was brought to the towns and villages. There was an openness and a transparency about it. There was no hiding around corners and wondering, are you going to have a pint here, or can we have a pint? The players are encouraged to enjoy themselves, and that transmits onto the pitch. And I think the Roscommon story this year in particular has given hope maybe to a lot of other counties in a couple other provinces that may have given up the ghost on fighting against the bigger counties, the stronger counties, and the more financially adept counties. That good coaching, good management can bring players on, and I think if you're a players type manager that understands that they've got issues outside of the game that need to be managed and controlled as much as inside the game, then you can get performances out of players, and you can get them to play to an optimum level that a lot of observers in Roscommon wouldn't have thought within them. Now, there are other issues, and look, I'm not going to go into them too in depth here, but there are players who aren't playing. That was their choice not to play in a lot of cases. In some cases, it wasn't their choice. And I think if we're to develop further on the progress of this year, and it's not finished yet, we need to find answers and solutions to those issues with the players. And I think with Kevin and Liam, when they sit down and analyse the season when it finishes, and hopefully that'll be on the 3rd Sunday in September, if we can develop along the lines that we've developed over the last 12-14 months, well then our future is very, very good. But I would caution as well that, you know, sometimes first season syndrome, you get the maximum out of players. The second season, then you have to embellish the squad, make it stronger, and then create that family aspect and that feel to it, which is not just internal to the squad, it's internal to the county, because like any other county, there's a lot of politics in it, but we're all rowing the boat currently in the one direction, and I would like to see that continuing, and I think it's important that it does.
Yeah, you mentioned the 3rd Sunday in September there. The replay has just been confirmed for 2 p.m. in Croke Park next Monday, so the first Monday in August. I suppose we often hear with replays like that, the team that's the perceived underdog has sort of missed their chance, but that probably doesn't apply to Mayo this year. But like, they're really not beating anyone out the gate, and it's like they're leaving everybody in with a chance, even Cork recently, despite what Kerry did to Cork. So Roscommon are going into this, and I would imagine a few people will have them down as favourites now, even though they went into the original one as underdogs. Gooch last night, for example, said he thinks he'll do it. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think there's a feeling that, you know, that Mayo are on their last legs. I think if you even look over the last couple of seasons, Fermanagh probably should have beaten them down in Castlebar last year. I don't think the Derry game this year was as close as people suggest. I think they kicked it probably away in a lot of cases. It was a comfortable enough win for them. I know that it went extra time. They won extra time, I think, by 11 or 12 points. So they pushed on. The Cork game was a game, I think, that they'll look back and say that's a game that we should really have closed out a lot easier. There were 7 points up on the 52nd, 53rd minute. The management, for some reason, decided to take off 2 or 3 players. Lee Keegan got a black card, and suddenly gaps appeared in their defence. Something similar happened yesterday, funnily enough. I think they took off Colin Boyle, which I thought was a mistake at the time. I thought he was playing quite well.
And really well, wasn't he?
He was playing very well, and I don't know what the rationale is behind some of these decision makings. And the Mayo management over the last couple of years have been at this kind of, I think it's kind of trying to justify maybe their own importance in some ways. We've seen it with the goalkeepers last year. We've seen numerous examples this year of it. And again, yesterday, taking off Colin Boyle, to me, made no sense. Parsons probably has an injury, so maybe that's the reason he didn't start. And they would say, look, that they're trying to extend their squad and need fresh legs. But I think Colin Boyle looked very fresh yesterday. And the reason that they took him off, only they'll know. But they're coming closer to the pack. I think they've played double, if not triple, the amount of minutes that Roscommon have played this year, and it shows maybe on the other hand the vagaries of the whole the whole lunacy of the fixture scheduling and the competition itself. But that's a whole different matter altogether.
Could be here all day.
We could be here all day for that. We won't solve that today. But I think, you know, we also have to say about Mayo that they showed tremendous courage. You know, as a team outside of Dublin, I think they've been one of the greatest ambassadors for Gaelic football in the country of all time. And what they've had to go through and what they've had to put their bodies through. And yesterday, Sean Malooly at 6 was outstanding for Roscommon. He did O'Shea in his pocket the whole game. But a turning point almost came with about 5-6 minutes to go, where O'Shea tracked David Murray right in on the 21-yard line. It was a one-on-one.
Big interception, yeah.
A big interception, huge. And that just shows you that they've got that experience, they've got that quality, they've got that never say die attitude. And he's a player that's taken a lot of stick over the last number of years as well. But yesterday, in a funny way, he kind of he showed up in a different light. He didn't give it up, even though his own game was suffering. And he tracked David. Would have been a goal. Certainly would have been a changing point. Mayo go down the field and get a what looked like a winning point or the lead point. And they've got that ability. But Roscommon showed yesterday that they've also got ability, and they've got players who are growing now in stature as the campaign and the championship goes on.
Mayo shooting was a bit of a problem yesterday for them, wasn't it? I mean, one thing about the Cork game, I think it was 21 or 24, I think was their conversion open play, and it was like, obviously as the charge has been levelled at them so much, but they were absolutely brilliant in that game. And you spoke earlier, I suppose, about the Derry game, the Wides, but like yesterday, like some of the shots maybe at the end, getting the wrong kind of players in position. Say Cillian O'Connor, I think he had 3 chances in injury time, maybe not all the most straightforward ones, but for them to only to go from 27 points one week and went extra time to 12 yesterday was a fair old drop. Yeah,
and fatigue can play a part in that too, you know, and tiredness, and look at at the end of the day, they are amateur players. They have to get up and go to work, and they have, I'm sure, there are hour sessions and all that, but at the same time, you know, they are amateur, and you know, sometimes these decisions are made. Cillian O'Connor, I think he had 3 misses, but 2 of them were one of them was from a free that was 55 yards out, it dropped short. The other one, I think, on the Cusick stand side where he turned inside, you know, he'll know that he should have done better on that. But there are days like that when it doesn't just happen for you, and some of the shot selection was poor. I'd have to say Roscommon as well. You know, when we had them at 7 points up, or certainly 4 points up, we had a couple of opportunities to knack 1 or 2 balls over the bar, and there were poor wides from in front of the goal. So it can happen in teams. You're not going to just get full 100% dartboard stuff, really. You know, it doesn't happen. In the first half, I think, you know, Mayo did miss. Their shot selection was poor at times, but they were under pressure. And you know, the Roscommon defence, I thought, manfully done very well in the man-to-man tackles, in the one-on-one setups, and when they needed to get covering around the ball, they tackled brilliantly. And I think the referee yesterday as well, he allowed a lot of the 2- and 3-man tackles go, and the team that turned it over had advantage of the ball, which is good to see. I think sometimes fouls are given far too easily, but McQuillan did allow that to happen yesterday. He allowed the game flow, and there was no brandishing of cards left, right and centre, which is sometimes it's like Joseph and his Technicolor dream coach. You don't know what sort of card is going to be thrown out. Is it yellow, black, green, blue, or are they going to invent another card? So I thought yesterday was quite good. I'd have to say we got lucky enough on a couple of occasions, maybe.
Probably should have been 1 black card.
It could have been 1 black card.
Yeah.
But that happens. I much sooner see the game flow without the game being broken up. And I think yesterday McQuillan done a right good job. And referees do come in for a lot of criticism at times, but yesterday was good.
Yeah, big time. A lot of comments coming in here about the game yesterday for yourself, Shane. Yeah, best comment actually will be giving away a 42 snapback, so keep them flying in and we'll get Shane's answers. So Declan Hare says Roscommon have really turned it around this year, all doom and gloom early in the year, which is actually a fair point. I think you touched upon that a minute ago, Shane. Judith Chalmers McEnany says, or asks, why were the forwards so static? I think in reference to Roscommon more so than Mayo. And you mentioned the Murtagh and I suppose Niall Kilroy as well yesterday. There was maybe an aspect of it where they didn't quite have the pace to get in behind Mayo, like, but I thought they performed fairly capably by the same token.
I mean, at this level of competition, I think even if you look at the Kerry game, Gainey's and James O'Donoghue were almost out of the game yesterday, and then obviously they had another man that could step up to the plate. Yesterday, Fintan Craig played very well for Roscommon, albeit probably in a middle third role. The Murtas of these guys, they're all going to be well marked. I think Killian O'Connor, you see at this level that defenders have that extra little bit of an edge on them. They get an extra player around the ball, they slow things up a small bit, and guys like this, they thrive on early ball space, and that's how they play. And if they get that early ball in space, they can hurt teams. But the way sides are conditioned now, if you mentioned Niall Kilroy really is playing as an orthodox sweeper, really is what he does, and he fills in for Sean Mullooly when Sean Mullooly goes forward, and I think yesterday he played that role brilliantly. What sometimes happens is, obviously Roscommon got a huge start yesterday, came out like a bullet out of a gun. Mayo then, I think, showed their experience. They got them Roscommon to slow things down a bit. We don't have a target man like a Donaghy, where you can fire in a ball from 60 yards over the top and hope, not nearly like a hit and hope ball, that he's going to get his hands on it, and you get 2 or 3 players around him to pick up the break, and you can slot a ball in the back of the net, something similar to what they done against Mayo in the All-Ireland semi-final 2 years ago, when the Mayo were 5 points up. We don't have that type of player, so we got to put it through the one bounce pass in front of them nearly all the time, or you're looking for a diagonal ball that can find a player in space, similar to Cian Connolly in the Connacht final, where he's one-on-one. You fire in a ball into him, and you hope that it's good enough for him to win the ball in front, slip his defender and stop it in the back of the net. You will get a couple of opportunities like that in matches, but against the really good teams, they generally snuff you out. And the snuff out, it's very difficult now to play as an inside forward, because more often than not, I don't know what the stats are, but I would say they're in the 70s, 80s, you're receiving the ball with your back to goal. And if you're receiving the ball with your back to goal, technically it's very, very difficult to go on one-on-one with the really good defenders. Yeah. So you're relying more so on the players coming from deep to overload into the full forward line and take second passes, like we did for the Kieran Murtha goal, or the Kieran Murtha goal. We got the ball in, ball to goal received, and the runner comes off at good pace, overloading the defence, where they don't know where to pick up the players, and it's in the back of the net. It's difficult to do that all the time. Yeah. In the modern game, because there's very few one-on-ones.
Yeah, big time. Johnny O'Keefe was wondering, who do you think was man of the match yesterday?
I would have given it to Niall Kilroy. I thought he was brilliant. From a Roscommon perspective, I would have given it to Niall Kilroy, Sean Mullooly, David Murray, Fintan, Craig in some cases was very, very good. John McManus played well on the Roscommon side. I'd have to say though, Lee Keegan did play, was awesome, and he is one of the best footballers I've ever seen. I think in terms of his stature, in terms of what he can do, he's the full package. He's got it all enveloped. He can defend, he can attack, he's strong, he's intelligent. He does pick up the odd black card. He plays on the edge. Yesterday I think the testing of the fabric of the Roscommon jerseys was done on a few occasions, but I'm not going to nail any player for that, and I'm not going to personalise it. I think every defender now, the Roscommon defenders do it, they all do it. It's to what extent you can get away with playing on the edge. Niall McInerney again yesterday, very good for Roscommon. But I thought if you were splitting it between Hayes, Niall Kilroy played brilliantly in his role. Keegan played brilliantly in his role and added 1-3, albeit one of them a deflected goal. I think that's one thing I suppose Roscommon will be a little bit disappointed in, is that when we got the 7 points, the second goal, we parted like the Red Sea, and Keegan had, I think, 80 yards to run with nobody, no half back line. I don't know how that happened, and I think when Kevin sits down to analyse that, at critical junctures in a game, you have to know how to close things down and maybe take a yellow card, kick a ball off the goalkeeper's tee and just settle things down. But that can happen when you're an inexperienced side.
Yeah, big time. One last one maybe on yesterday before we talk about the other games. Dara Foy, cheers Dara, he asks, or she asks, it could be a girl, do you feel there is a gap in class between Connacht teams in quarterfinals to the other teams there from the other provinces?
No, I don't. I think this year's championship has been very invigorating. We've, last year as well, we've seen Tipperary come. This year we've seen Kildare come and Leinster. We've seen our revitalisation of Armagh, which I think is great for the game. Galway have come back to a certain extent, winning the Connacht Championship last year, quarter-final again this year. The South is probably struggling a small bit. Cork, to varying degrees, have come back, but have the next year be a big question for them, and see can they move on from Padre Healy and get a manager in and get the resources around them. But I think it's been a really good championship, and ourselves obviously are adding to it. So there's a lot of counties that maybe without hope have now a certain amount of hope of getting to a certain level, be it quarter-final or semi-final. It's making that huge gap and that transition from Mayo's, Kerry's and Dublin's. Can we do it? I think some team can, one or two teams possibly will decide, can they get into the bracket with Tyrone and maybe Mayo and push for an All-Ireland, and Roscommon are well placed to do that. Maybe Armagh over another couple of years. Maybe you could see the re-emergence of Donegal. So the championship has been reinvigorated by new kids on the block, so to speak, and I think that's good. And Roscommon, you know, I think the last team to win an All-Ireland with a population under 100,000 is Offaly in terms of football.
82, yeah.
In 82. That's a long time ago. I was just out in Nappies at the time. You probably weren't even born, lads, but anyhow.
My time now.
So, you know, 82. So what Roscommon have done this year is given hope through those type of counties. And can you reinvigorate them? Can you get that traditional football element, that football family, like a juggernaut behind you? That's really what's important, and that you bring football to the people, to the communities. And I think in a lot of counties, players have been cocooned away from the supporters. They've been cocooned away from the limelight in a lot of ways. And even after matches, you know, there's that mixture, that element of going to a pub or wherever it may be to have a chat and a natter. I think we need to get back to more that to make counties a lot better. And in Roscommon, that's been done, and it's been done on a lot of levels in other counties. And I think if we see that, we'll have a much more vibrant championship going forward. We need to change the structures and the way that the championship is run. But look, that's an ongoing debate.
Yeah, big time. I suppose you're speaking about Roscommon's resurgence. We saw Armagh as well, mentioned it a minute ago, how they've kind of been just quietly motoring fairly well, and I don't think it was, obviously it wasn't a shock that they beat Kildare necessarily, but maybe if you asked somebody a year ago as to whether they'd be there again, you know, there would have been an element of uncertainty. But what did you make of it? And I suppose the main talking about here is Kieran McGeeney, and he's kind of at it again for all the criticism of him in recent years.
They're a very strange team to analyse. I mean, they haven't won a game in Ulster in 3 years. They're in Division 3. You know, they couldn't get the job done on a few occasions this year in the league to get promotion. Aside from the last day getting caught by Tip, there was another couple of results, you know, that they could have been out of sight by the time it came to the last day. And then, you know, they fade really badly in the second half at the start against Down. But you know, they've got a couple of wins, confidence. I was at the Tip game. I think that did a lot for them. I mean, like, it was away from home. Like, they're really passionate supporters. Like, and there was a big crowd down in Thurles Saturday supporting them on, and they seem to harness that again. Same on Saturday night. But I think the Tip game was a big one for them. And I mean, now they've beaten last year's All-Ireland semi-finalists and this year's Leinster finalists, and they'll probably win as underdogs on Saturday against Tyrone. But I mean, like, they'll relish that. Like, you know, I mean, the fact that with all the history of it, I mean, I suppose players on both sides, it's pretty much changed, hasn't it, from what, you know, the games are in kind of 03, 02 and that era. But huge achievement, and like, I think the one thing about them is, like, they play really good football to watch. I mean, obviously Jamie Clark got all the headlines on Saturday. Like, he was brilliant in the second half, but I thought the point Ethan Rafferty kicked with about 10 minutes to go was absolutely fantastic. You know, stepped in from the women's hand side. So same against Tipperary, they played really good football, and it's been a pretty impressive turnaround, you know, considering the way the Down match had gone for them.
No, absolutely. I think it's a triumph of perseverance and patience with a process. And Kieran, you know, he spent, I think, 5 or 6 years with Kildare, got them to a quite decent level where they were competitive. And you know, you could argue a number of refereeing decisions really went against him and his team on a number of occasions. I find him a very intriguing individual. I find him a tremendous ambassador for the game. I was over Pádraig Pearse's for 2 years, and I'd rang him up on a number of occasions to come down for training. He couldn't make it, but we'd spend an hour on the phone having a chat, and any questions I had for him, he was very transparent and very open about answering them. And that's not necessarily the perception of the man. I think he could do maybe smile a little bit more, you know, and he has this kind of you know, I suppose people have this view of him that he's a very serious individual, and that reflects in his teams. But we've seen Saturday night a team that's prepared to play open football, good football, off the cuff stuff, and the likes of Clark, who is a top performer, a really great player, and a player I love to see playing. similar again to Jeremy and Kieran Murtha and some of the lads we have, and Killian O'Connor and Bernard Brogan, all these lads. Now he's getting the stage that he deserves to showcase his talent, and the perseverance Armagh County Board have had with Kieran to keep with him and keep with his programme, and maybe allowing himself to soften his stance in some ways and look at a different approach to the game is giving Armagh that extra little bit of flexibility in terms of their tactics. And I think there will be a breakout over the next couple of years away from the Tyrone maybe element, and certainly the way Donaghy played. There's to compete now and to win. To compete, you can compete by being defensive and have 14 and 15 men behind the ball. But if you really want to have a go and try and win something, as Roscommon have proved, you have to have both sides of the tactical element. So you've got to be able to defend properly, but you also have to be able to attack, and that means committing players to attack, committing players to an overload when you go forward, and take your chances. And I think we've seen a bit of that with Armagh the weekend, and I think we've seen more of that in football this year.
The mark has kind of contributed to that, hasn't it? I mean, there's been, I don't know what the actual stats are, but there's definitely been a lot more long kickouts in this year's championship. And I mean, I think Saturday night, Niall Grimley and Stephen Sheridan gave Armagh a platform, because you're able to quickly counter-attack before a team is able to get, flood all the bodies back and retreat and set up like in a defensive wall. Yeah,
that's true, and it has helped. Now, we didn't see too much of it in the Roscommon game yesterday, funnily enough. But I do agree, and I think if you look at, I've seen stats there of Dublin's kickouts, there is a complete changeover. It's a 2/3 changeover from short kickouts now to long kickouts. But they've got the players and they've got the physical attributes and the strength to be, and a goalkeeper that can pick out players at distance and short intervals to be able to make the mark a huge advantage. And I think teams that can make that an advantage, absolutely, you're kicking at 60-70 yards away from your own goal, a good kick in, and you're straight in your full forward line. So it's allowing teams maybe transition a lot faster, save energy, and have the energy to defend properly maybe when it's required. And Armagh are using that particular tactic quite well.
Yeah, big time. Well, things didn't quite go to plan for Kildare, of course, against Armagh. We did catch up with Daniel Flynn beforehand. He's a lot happier in this clip, I'd imagine, than he is now, but he was talking to us about his hero in GAA, which is a feature we'll be running on the GAA show here on 42.ie for the foreseeable future. So here's Daniel's take on growing up being a GAA fan.
No, not really. Like I was saying to you, kind of only up until about I was 16 or 17, I kind of really started playing football, and I started playing properly. Kind of started to get really into it, and at that stage, up until then, I didn't really. But at that stage, I kind of then started to probably look up to that current Kildare team, and in 09-010, probably the likes of Johnny Doyle and Brian Flanagan would have been, say, my clubman, and he would have been playing centre back in that team. So they would have been kind of the people I would have kind of looked up to and tried to emulate. When I was younger, I kind of didn't have a grow for it, or wouldn't have thought myself to be good at it. And then I kind of got a feel for it, and it says for it then, and I don't know, it kind of took off then. Schools football was kind of the big turning factor. Maybe I played a year for Kildare minors at that age, and kind of overnight, I kind of went from being kind of low to average to kind of actually playing well in the games and doing well. There's no rush, like there is no panic. That would be the big thing. I think I didn't start really. I started playing when I was younger, of course, when I was 10 or that, but it wasn't only the last stage that I really got into the game. I think Johnny Doyle was the same. He didn't play minor under 21. He didn't kind of come onto the scene until he was 23. Bernard Brogan similarly. There's loads and loads of time. Just practice your skills, practice your game. Yeah, that's all really.
Daniel Flynn there talking about his GAA hero, or kind of lack thereof as it transpired. One icon, I suppose, that we touched upon earlier, but I think deserves a little bit more of a mention, is Kieran Donaghy and his performance against Galway. Shane, from a goalkeeper's perspective, how do you kind of deal with a man like that?
If you could get up and split his spine maybe, or something, and knee into the back at something very earlier on, I don't know how you do it. I think his performance against Galway was outstanding. I think even against Cork, he looks re-enthused, reinvigorated. He looks like he's a guy that I think he's played a lot of basketball over the winter. His feet look quick. His finish yesterday with the left foot was outstanding. He seems to be playing with a kind of an air of exuberance, I suppose, really, and probably Eamon maybe has a lot to do with that as well. And he's a player obviously that's taken a lot of critique over the last couple of years. And Kerry's play in some games maybe has been a bit one-dimensional in that if it's not working when it's gone into him, have they any other tricks? Donaghy, while he didn't play well against Galway, and the other players around him, he carried them on Sunday against Galway, and I think it's great to see that a player of his age, I think he's 34, 35 now, can actually stay with that limitless, boundless energy and keep coming back despite the criticism. And I think a lot of the stuff that goes on in the GAA at the moment, the personalised attacks on players, are wrong. You know, these keyboard warriors that we hear and see about on Twitter and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. It's a pity some of them can't be jailed, you know, half the time, just taken off the system. Because it does get very nasty, and Kieran has got a lot of that, and I've seen Killy O'Connor got a bit of it as well after yesterday from various different fools. But I think he was brilliant, you know, and I think he's a real credit to any young aspiring young player coming up, you know, that you can play as long as you want if you look after yourself and you're coached properly, and you've got a manager then as well that maybe allows you over the winter to do things that are slightly different.
Like give them the whole spring off, and it's really paid off, hasn't it?
That's absolutely it, Fintan, and I think you have to manage within a group. Players have got to be managed differently. If a guy goes off and plays basketball and it's going to help him at the business end of the season, you have to have a brain and an intellect to allow the player to do that, and that's why Eamon Fitzmaurice is there and why he's such a good manager. You know, it's taking maybe certain players maybe need to do yoga or something like that over the winter months and keep away from winter football because it doesn't suit their bodies. But that's I suppose a mathematical thing that managers have got to make a decision on their players, what they can do, what they can't do, and that the group understands that it's for the benefit of the group in the longer term, without there being any mischievous kind of individual inside the group who says, well, he's not doing it, why should I do it? But you won't get that in the likes of Kerry, you won't get it in squads that want to develop and that want to be successful and that have ambition. And I think, you know, looking at him yesterday, I'd like to see him playing for another couple of years. But going back to your question about what should a goalkeeper do, I think it's very difficult, even for a fullback. I think Galway tried to double team him yesterday. Yeah,
they started David Walsh, and Owen Curran was kind of sweeping, but I think it was four high balls in the first 20 minutes.
And
he got a point from one, goal for another, was fouled for another, James Brennan free.
Yeah. Galway
surrendered him for one of them, and they did win a free out, but I mean, ultimately he was causing havoc inside there.
He was causing havoc. The quality of the ball into him though was also very good, and
there's lack of pressure out the field then, isn't
there? Lack of pressure out the field, and if there's a lack of pressure out the field, the Kerry players are very, very good at kick passing, and the elevation of the pass is always to his advantage. You know, it allows him get the ball at an angle, not front facing. So if a defender is coming behind you and the ball is kicked straight, it's quite easy enough to get up there and bang it. But if it's to an angle where he can open on his strong side and close on his weak side, it's very, very difficult finishing. That's what he done Sunday. He won the ball on his strong side and he closed off on his perceived weak side, his left foot, by turning in and putting it in the back of the net. How many times have we seen that from Donaghy in the last number of years? Not that many, but he's used probably basketball over the summer to work on those type of angles, probably along with a coach, and said, well, I need to improve on this, and he's gone and improved it at 34, 35, and that shows you what type of an athlete he is, and also his mentality, that I can come back and I can do things a little bit different. And the coaching is good, kick passing excellent, but you know, that's the challenge for other teams that come up against Kerry now. Can they close that type of threat out with a player of his quality in there?
Telling you, yeah, there's a lot to be said for basketball. I thought I saw a couple of pick and rolls in the game yesterday. I know Lee McHale has a bit of a basketball involvement as well. But right. We might finish on a comment here from Mickey McHugh. Thanks for all the comments, by the way, so far. I think the answer to this one is fairly short, lads, but leave it up to yourselves. Can Fintan or Shane see any hope for Monaghan versus Dublin? If they were Malachy, as in if you guys were Malachy, would they go at Dublin or employ the blanket?
I'd look for a change in the rules. If he could have played 21 players against 15, that's what I'd be looking for if I was Malachy. But anyhow, on a more serious note, I think Malachy O'Rourke's been around a while at this level. He understands what's needed. Some managers at some stage is going to pick out the patterns in the Dublin play, that will give his team the best opportunity of being firstly competitive, but then maybe the opportunity of creating an upset. And if you can pick out the patterns in the play, it gives you a huge advantage. If you can give that information to your players at the correct time, and giving them a willingness and a knowingness that this is what they're going to do, this is how they're going to try and do it. Yes, there's a fluidity and there's a flexibility to their tactics. That will mean that what I put up on a dartboard or put up on a whiteboard or put up on whatever board here for you guys may not necessarily happen all the time, but it will give them a picture of looking into another team that a lot of people think are unbeatable. I think they're probably as unbeatable as a team can be, but a manager someday will pick those patterns and he will say, this is going to give my team the best chance. If Malachy O'Rourke does that, he certainly has got really, really good players. They're an experienced Division 1 outfit. They're a talented group of players. Can they get a good start like Roscommon did yesterday and start asking questions of Dublin? Some team someday is going to do that. Will it be Monaghan this weekend? I don't know. I don't think so. I just don't think they have enough of bullets in their armoury really to take them on. But at some stage a team will, and they will do it by playing football that's open and honest, and that puts a principle on attacking football. Yeah. That's the only way it can be done. It cannot be done by parking the bus. And I would like to see Monaghan having a go at it, and that when Malachy O'Rourke sits down, okay, can we pick 3 or 4 things that even if they don't work, let's try them and see, let's ask the questions. Like I know it's a long time ago and Dublin were a different part of their development at the time, but they got 5 goals. If a team got 2 goals, roll in 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, start asking the questions. Get to half time a point up or a point down. Start asking the questions again in the second half. Maybe, quite maybe, a team with belief can do it. A manager that has the belief to send his team out with that belief is the team that will do it. Maybe Monaghan will, but I would think that on this occasion Dublin will come through by 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, there'll probably be concern for Monaghan with the way they're defending at the moment. Like Drew Way just doesn't look in good form. Like Harrison had him in a bit of bother again Saturday night, and he had done previously in Ulster. But the good news for them, I think, from 8 to 15 up, like they're playing really well. The Hughes brothers really good Saturday night. Seemed to have a good few scoring options off the bench as well. Conor McCarthy was brilliant when he came on.
7 from play off the bench, I think, and they only had 2 from play in the first half from the starters.
So like their shooting was really, really good, but ultimately you're going to have to take the chances that come your way. I mean, you talk about the goals. You think at the Leinster final, that Daniel Flynn chance, like against the top sides, like Galway yesterday, we saw it against Kerry. Like if Monaghan get goal chances against Dublin, they just have to convert them, because they won't get too many of them presented to them. But you have to fancy Dublin ultimately.
Yeah, afraid so. But that is all we've got time for here on the GAA Show on the 42.ie. My thanks to Fintan as always, and thanks a million to yourself, Shane, for coming in. We'll speak to you again.
Delightful.
Sure, you never know that Sunday in September we might get you back.
Well, we'll have 2 in August, please God. First. And we'll have 1 in August next Monday anyhow. That's the most important one. So please God, we get over that.
First Monday in August will go down in history. Well, listen, thanks a million for your comments as well, and thanks for tuning in. We will be back this time next week. Until then, take it easy.